The world has gone to chaos. Dust circles have appeared, bringing monsters that ravage the lands and cause havoc across the world. And there's only one academy with a group of dedicated teenagers that can stop this massive threat to humanity. Why? For the plot, that's why. You play as God's gift to women, a smooth-talking, silent protagonist. Kinda. Sorta. I mean, he has his own dialogue choices, and just dialogue in general to give him his own personality, but he has no voice. So, is he? We'll find out in the review. You're going to build your own harem with 7 girls. Women want to be with you. Men want to be with you as well? What the fuck? So prepare for sexy transforming girls, baby making, awkward situations,
Get your hand off me!
boobs, and all the sexual innuendo you can handle in this JRPG. Conception 2, Children of the 7 Stars. Seriously, with a name like Conception, what the hell are you expecting here? Alright, so that little fail of a trailer aside, Conception 2 does involve these things called dust circles that are threatening humanity. You play as the God's gift, an individual that can produce a lot of ether to blast into the star room of 7 girls to make children. Oh wait, it's called star children. It's important to say star children and not just children. These star children help to defeat the creatures that spawn from the dust circles. You have to make stronger star children, so that in turn leads to a sort of dating sim aspect that has you doing bonding events. Doing these events help to get to know the girls better, and in turn that will lead to stronger star children. The dating sim aspect is kind of a light and heavy aspect of the game. Light being that there's not much to it, just choose the options that won't piss the girls off and they'll like you. And even if you do make them mad, you can always give them a gift to soften up their mood. Heavy in the respect that you'll be doing a lot of bonding events, because each girl produces different classes of star children to help you out in battle. The bonding events give the characters some backstory and some entertaining moments. I found these moments to be fairly enjoyable and funny at times. And this game kind of follows the rules of your typical anime school life story. So of course you have your school festival event and poolside fan service. And speaking of fan service, this game is jam-packed to the brim with fan service. Sexual innuendo that's in your face almost all the time. Jiggling boobs, making star children is not having sex, but pretty much all the girls act like it is. I mean, look at the star mating ritual yourself, and it only gets ranchier the more you bond with each girl. The plot is quite predictable, and there isn't any real twists or turns or anything worth noting that nearly anyone couldn't see coming from space. The story just feels like it's not meant to be taken too seriously. It wants to get you in by looking at the cute girls and of course the fan service, which I can sort of see why people might not like this game or immediately ignore it. I did enjoy it because I'm not opposed to its theme, and it's not all that bad. This game does sport every standard almost in the JRPG medium, but it doesn't come off leaving too much of a bad taste in your mouth. The music is one of the best points about the game. Pretty much there's no other way to describe it, it's like a Persona game. Upbeat pop tunes and themes befitting for each character. Seriously guys, there's some catchy music here. However, for such an awesome soundtrack, I think it just falls short when you're roaming around in dungeons. It's kind of a letdown because roaming around in the dungeons is just boring. Now there's one song in particular that plays during the Chapter 7 boss fight that I just love, but I can't find that song anywhere. If anyone can find that song for me, or the entire soundtrack for this game, please let me know. Now the voice actors do put on a good performance, giving characters emotions where it's needed, but there is one voice in particular that sort of bothered me in the beginning, and that is the voice of Ellie. Now guys, I've watched a lot of anime in my day, and damn me if I'm wrong, I know what a character like her should sound like just by looking at her. And the voice of her English voice actor just doesn't sit well with me. I know she should sound like a child and cute, but the dub voice actor has a mature tone and serious voice that just doesn't match with the character at all. This is weird because I think the voice actor herself did a good job with the voice, but it just doesn't match the character at all. There's one other thing that kind of bothers me about the voice acting, and that's the lack of a voice for the main character. He's supposed to be a silent protagonist, but has dialogue options, which is standard for a silent protagonist, but also has just enough dialogue to garner his own personality. His responses are rather vague, but there are almost more than 1 or 2 sentences, or even 3 sentences long at a time. I know main characters in visual novels don't have voices, but for some reason it sort of feels like he should have just had his own voice. And that had me question if he was a silent protagonist or not, just because of his lack of a voice. But all things considered, I believe he is. While I do say again as a whole the voice acting is good, but this is the very first time in a very long time that I'm actually wishing there was a Japanese voice track option. It's also worth noting that there's a fair amount of voice acting. You have some voice acting in the important story events, and all major bonding events have voice acting as well. Since this game has a visual novel type setup to it, it's a very text heavy game, so thankfully the localization team, in my opinion, didn't skip out too much on the voice acting. Now the graphics are really nicely done. Roaming around in dungeons, the game runs at a good 50 to 60 frames per second, at least on the Vita. On the 3DS, not so much. The dungeons, I would have to say, look good, but they lack personality. They're pretty much the same dungeon with just a color swap for each location. Now you actually have character models when you're doing bonding events, and they're great. I like the little detail they put into it as well. You can give them gifts, and in those gifts you can give them glasses, earrings. That just adds a nice layer of personal preference to these events. The artwork and the character portraits have a slight animation to them, which is always a nice touch. The artwork and character design are just some of the best I've seen in a JRPG to date. Now when you're not doing bonding events with the ladies or wooing the ladies around the school or making star children, just as much of your time will be spent roaming around the labyrinths, the game's dungeons. These labyrinths are random and some of the most boring dungeon design I've seen since Persona 3. Now Conception 2 boasts an interesting battle system, but ultimately one that falls short of being engaging. You bring along one of the girls to partner up with, and the rest of your party are all star children. 3 star children make up one single party member, with all star children attacking at once or using an item in a turn. Since star children take up most of your party, they're kind of important. You can make new star children into any class, and the overall stats of the mother come into play in a new offspring. Or even 2 mother stats are thrown into the mix when you do a threesome. Wait, I mean trimating. It's called trimating. It's not a threesome. It may look like a threesome, but it's trimating. Star children all have a level cap when they're created, but when the girls level up, the level cap of the newly made star children will be higher. Once you reach the level cap for a star child, it's pretty much recommended that you make them independent. Making a star child independent will increase the city level and allow for more quests and new items to surface in stores. Making new star children is part of the game's flow, but since they have that level cap, it's really hard to even care about them because you'll just end up letting them go eventually to get another star child that will be stronger. There is a chance you can create a star child with the max level cap of 99 and stats that will be higher than average. But it's such a rarity to get one that I only got 2 in my playthrough, and I created well over 200 star children. So yeah. Conception 2 has you targeting enemies from all sides, front, back, to the left, and right, with 1 or 2 sides that are weak points. Attacking weak points of course yield more damage, but attacking from a neutral or a side labeled caution fills up your chain meter faster. Once your chain meter fills up to a certain point, you can constrict the enemy, which allows for more turns for your party to just keep bombarding the enemy. You also have an ether density meter that will help give you more turns during battle. Maintaining ether density and building chain meter to attack in succession is what the battle system wants to be about. However, I found just attacking the weak points of the enemy is a much more efficient way to go about battles, yielding more damage and easily taking down most foes, and works for most boss battles as well. Getting more chain does yield more EXP and money though, which can be something to consider since making new star children all start at level 1. The game's difficulty is sort of on the easy side, with the last few boss battles and dungeons giving a slight spike to the overall difficulty. Nothing that can be overly frustrating or game changing, just be sure to keep a good supply of healing items handy. In retrospect, the battles just aren't all that engaging. You would think attacking enemies from all sides would be a bit fun, but it just isn't. And the game is easy for the most part, so no real strategy is needed except use attacks that can cause the most damage to kill enemies off as quickly as possible. It's not bad, it's just a letdown. I've seen far worse battle systems, but it's a shame that this couldn't be more fun. But you can transform your Star Children into a giant mecha thing, so yeah, it's got that going for it. Conception 2 is a game I feel doesn't exactly want to be anything special. It's well aware of its ranchy theme and blatant in-your-face fan service. The fan service doesn't make the game bad. Does it make it slightly unapproachable? Yes. Would I give this game a recommendation to just about anybody? Of course not. If you know you don't like fan service, more than likely this game will further fuel that very dislike. Many will probably regard this title as a game with the common JRPG tropes and some of the basic problems a JRPG falls into with its story and characters. And to be quite frank with you, it kinda does on some levels. But if you're like me and don't mind things like fan service and whatnot, then the story and the characters in this case shouldn't be a big deal for you. You should have a good idea that this game is going to have a typical ground and will build up to something that is of course typical. Now if you don't mind those things, here's what Conception 2 can offer you. A story with a premise that is a bit over the top but can be funny and entertaining. Characters that have charm even though they might be fairly standard. You've got your Tsundere and Serena, and I like Tsunderes, but Serena just comes up flat to me. Naraka is where it's at, and Chloe too. Tori is a distant third. Battle system could use some work, but I say it gets the job done. At the end of the day, I think Conception 2 is a good game. It could use some improvements, but I say what's here is worth the playthrough. 7.5 out of 10. It's one thing when a JRPG is actually trying to be serious and still falls into subpar territory. It's another thing when a JRPG is quirky, knows it's being quirky, and kinda runs with it. And that is Conception 2.